advised to support the motion in its original form, quite transparently, and in so doing, we'd like to start by acknowledging the wonderful work that we have done over the past 7.5 years, almost 8 years, on roads in my electorate. We have had some tremendous fortune in getting some of our real problem roads fixed, and they are now a really encouraging sign for our community of what can be done when the government comes to the party and ensures that those trouble roads are fixed up and improved for our community. I've got a non-exhaustive list that I've jotted down here, Mr Speaker, of some of those roads that have been fixed, but I am most proud of the fact that the road the entire way from Port Broughton through Butte, Colpara, Arthurton, Maitland, Middleton has been fixed in the past 8 or 9 years. It's quite an extraordinary feat, and it was one that I door-knocked on as a candidate a little while ago now, promising to get that road down the middle fixed up to make it in a drivable state. And to have that road fixed for that length, is an extraordinary feat, and I know one that the community appreciates a great deal. It is a very busy thoroughfare that it hosts a great deal of traffic, both domestic and grain traffic down that middle road, and it is now a really smooth and enjoyable trip for the most part. The first stretch that was fixed from Middleton to Urania is starting to break up and become a little bit bouncy, but for the most part it's a really wonderful piece of road, and as I said, tremendously appreciated by the community who put up with a bumpy, narrow section of road for far too long. So I'm incredibly proud about that. The Spencer Highway from Wallaroo to Maitland and through Moonta have had its shoulders done over the past few years. Obviously the big ticket item at Port Wakefield with the overpass and the duplication all the way through to Lockhill has gone tremendously well for a great deal of many people. There is hope, even within my community, of ensuring that now travels from Lockhill through to Port Augusta, but I've got to say, as the local Member of Parliament that represents the town of Lockhill, there is some concern in that community about what the roadway through that town will look like. It's existing roadway, the road carriageway is far too narrow to host 4 lanes, in my view at least, and then on one side of the town is obviously the famous salt pans, so you can't cover that up with road. And then the question is whether we go behind the town through some paddocks on the other side to ensure that those 4 lanes, double lane, can be accommodated through the town there. But it would be a wonderful thing to see that completed all the way through to Port Augusta. And of course what we have there now at Port Wakefield under the overpass and those duplications is a wonderful asset. But it's not just those big state roads that we appreciate. Mr Speaker, of course, it is the ones in our community that have benefited from state government assistance as well, and perhaps most famously in my community, Bay Road in Moonta, which is now a road truly befitting of its major tourism status that it holds, and a really pleasant endeavour for those who visit our community to travel down the famous Moonta Bay onto the jetty and whatnot. They now get to travel on a road that is not a patchwork quilt of different potholes and fix-ups. It's now a nice wide road with appropriate drainage and stormwater facilities, and a really attractive road with some plantings and whatnot there as well. And of course there's other little roads like my own town in Canina past the showgrounds there, which has benefited from a grant from the state government and is now an upgraded road. As I said, that is a non-exhaustive list, but it's some of the more impressive ones that we've had done, and of course from the big to the small, it's a really wonderful thing to see it happen. Now, the government are attempting to amend this motion to celebrate the ongoing investments, and to that end I'd like to note that there are some in our electorate that are ongoing. The Wallaroo Entrance Road is very much a work in progress. The council are out there doing the stormwater component of it now, and my understanding is that the state government will swoop in very soon to start the actual bitumising of the road to upgrade that. Similarly, Bay Road, that will be much appreciated by that community, which will elevate it to a entrance road to a tourism town befitting of its popularity, and we look forward to seeing that happen, because golly, it's been a significant wait for that. It's been a project mooted for quite some time, and to see it finally happen, and the trucks and tractors out there right now doing some work, is very encouraging. We also have the Edithburgh to Yorktown stretch of road, which was the subject of a petition that I tabled in this place relatively recently. Rick Hutchinson from Edithburgh did all the legwork to secure a significant number of signatures to highlight to this place the perils of that road, the narrowness of it, the undulations and whatnot. And as it should happen, that petition seems to have worked. The government have since committed to doing some shoulder work there to widen that road and make it an easier thing for trucks and caravans to get down. And I know Rick is somewhat happy with that. It would have been nice to get a completely new road, but at least it will be widened and those shoulders will be fixed. And then of course the Rex Minerals road realignment to allow for that mine site, although ostensibly, or at least it shouldn't be the subject of any government funding, it still will be a new road for our electorate. And the entrance into Pine Point there was quite contentious and the subject of a lot of complaints to my office, and that will now be fixed up, presumably by Rex Minerals, to ensure that it's a far better road now as well, and we look forward to seeing those completed too. But, Mr Speaker, the reason that I'd like to support the motion in its original form and oppose the attempted amendment is because we clearly need more. The ongoing investments are nice and we appreciate the work that is being done and mooted to be done, but there is still a lot to do in our community. Whilst we have had some significant fortune over the past 7.5 or 8 years, we need it to continue. We need, in the words of the original motion, a call on the Malinauskas government to invest more in upgrading our regional and rural roads. So to that end, I'd like to identify some that I'd like to see upgraded in the next, or committed to being upgraded at least in the next few months as we head toward the next election, to ensure that our community can continue to keep pace with the requirements that it needs in its road network. The Butte to Snowtown Road in the north of my electorate, which is again a major thoroughfare for grain trucks trying to get to the Snowtown silos, but near the railway line there, is a terrible piece of road. Undulated and narrow, it's in desperate need of an upgrade, and we've been lobbying for it for some time, and it certainly needs to find its way to the top of the government list somehow. We have roads out of Midleton from Port Vincent to Yorktown, which are far too narrow and which would need significant upgrading, and I'd like to mention at this point Chris Thompson, who's been a staunch advocate for trying to widen the road from Midleton to Yorktown. And more recently, we've had contact from the Port Clinton Progress Association. And this is not necessarily a complaint about the standard of the road, coast road there, but a noting of the fact that there are 3 entrances to the community of Port Clinton, all from the highway, and the turning facilities from the highway into the town are somewhat deficient. It is a 100km/h zone past the highway, and at least 3 houses have their driveways and front yards open up onto the highway, and it is a major thoroughfare for grain trucks heading to Port Adelaide or Ardrossan, and of course it is a dangerous thing. It's a decent sized town with a strong community, and there are significant concerns from the Progress Association that there will be an accident there from a car waiting to turn into the community, or from a child playing in their front yard adjacent to the main highway out the front there. So I've undertaken to do my best to help that community investigate safer ways for their community, for their town to be accommodated. And it just goes to show that not all government investment needs to be in major roads and upgrades. It can be as simple as changing a speed sign or building a turning lane. I have a couple of final thoughts that I'd like to make for consideration for this place, I guess, Mr Acting Speaker. The first of which is that there seems to be an increasing frustration from motorists when it comes to roadworks. It certainly seems though over the duration of the past 8 years that I've been in this place, there is an increasing onus on those people that put out the roadworks signs to make them more complicated and cumbersome. Now, I had a bill in the previous Parliament to try and whittle that back a bit so that it was only those requirements were only in place whilst the roadwork is actually in the presence of the roadwork site. But I haven't reintroduced that this time. But it seems to me that those signs are continuing at pace, and that there needs to be some work done back to balance the utility of the road user with the safety of the road worker. It would certainly seem that it's gotten out of hand and that there could be some restabilisation going on to ensure that that comes back into balance. The other thing that I'd like to observe is that some time ago our roads were all dropped to 100km/h. This was done in the name of road safety at the time, and an acknowledgement of the fact that our roads were not up to a standard to safely host traffic at 110km/h. Well, I'd like to make note of the fact that there hasn't been any appreciable difference in the road toll since that occurred. I would love for someone to do some research as to whether that has actually had a positive impact on the road safety or no impact or a negligible impact, because if it's negligible, we would much appreciate those roads, at least the ones that are recently redeveloped, being returned to 110km/h because ultimately people on regional roads have places to be and things to do, and the quicker we can get there, the better.